Hi, welcome to Yoga with me, Basanti. I'm sitting in Shukasana. Maybe you want to join me there. Shuk means happy. It's often translated as the easy pose, which is correct, of course. But happy is also correct. So in the happy pose, just observe your breath and sort of get yourself ready to spend an hour just in your body without any distractions, apart from my voice, of course. Maybe you've noticed that your breath is becoming a little bit slower. Gently bring your left ear to the left shoulder. Maybe adding hands, left hand on the head, right hand walks to the side. And the breath should just be free-flowing, unconstricted. Chin towards collarbone, armpit, somewhere where it's comfortable. And if you are using the hand, you could still keep using the hand, gently applying a little tiny bit of pressure at the back of the head. So really up to you to decide how the neck feels. And then chin to chest, maybe with both hands behind your head, trying to keep your back straight while just the chin comes to the sternum. And slowly release. We're going to change this side of Shukasana here. So the inner foot comes to the outside, outer foot goes in. Hopefully that's comfortable too. And then when you're ready, right ear to the right shoulder. Right hand could add some weight, left hand could walk to the side. Again, we decide if that's maybe a little bit too much and if we just want to rest the hands on the knees or somewhere. And then chin to the armpit or collarbone. And then all the way down to the chest, and we're gonna round our back. Hands are optional at the back of the head, but we're gonna round as much as we can. If your hands are at the back of the head, try to aim your elbows towards your hips rather than the front of the mat or your feet. And then slowly roll up, hands behind the head. Raise your head and start drawing circles. And with the hands behind the head, that should be comfortable enough. But if it isn't, of course, adapt half circles or something else. And then from here, right hand down, left arm reaches over to the right side. We move into our fingers and our wrist. And then open the palm to the ceiling. Push your elbow down behind you and reach. Fingertips to the right and elbow down, and then hand down, round your back and roll up. And go for the other side, but before we do, other side of Shukasana again. Left hand down, right arm over to the left side, move into your wrist and fingers. And open the palm to the ceiling, press your elbow to the back, reach the fingertips to the side again. And then from here, hand down, round your back, roll up through the spine. Hands on the shoulders to draw circles with the elbows. Taking the elbows far back to feel your shoulder blades. And then hands together in front of you. We drop our ears to the sides. Chin from side to side, so towards the collarbone. And then round your back, arms to the front and up, and we press the elbows down. Inhale, arms reach up. Exhale, elbows down. You could go slower than me, depends on your breath. You could also hold your breath at the bottom, at the top, if it feels nice to hold the posture, if it feels nice to hold the breath. And then come onto all fours from here. So always checking that you're aligning knees and hips, wrists and shoulders, and then squeezing the shoulder blades as you drop the chest and pushing the shoulder blades apart, lengthening the arms. Round your back, drop the head. Arch your back, raise the head, And as you'll know, unless this is your first class with me, inhale and arch, and exhale and round. Letting the breath come first, letting it guide your movement. And then as you round, right hand to the left side. And round again, left hand to the right side. Hips push a little bit to the left. And back into Padmanasana, tabletop pose. Arching, rounding, and then from here, send your left arm to the front and right leg to the back. Dandayam Padmanasana, that's called. Balancing tabletop. Oh, that's the English word for it. Now check your breath, check you're not holding it. That may be a sign that you're concentrating too hard or that it's not your thing today. Elbow to knee and away from you. Could be a bit higher as well. Round your back and arch, or just stretch to the back. That's an option too. Inhale as you open up. Exhale as you round. And then other side. Right arm, left leg. And we hold that balancing tabletop. Making sure your left shoulder is very strong here, the left arm that's holding you. It's really from the hand all the way up to the shoulder. And knee to elbow and reach away. Arch and round as you in and exhale. And you don't have to bring that leg high. I mean, mine is not super high, but yeah, it can be anything you want it to be. Back into tabletop, and from here, inhale, raise your right arm. Couple of breaths. And on an exhale, right arm to the left side. Adapt a little bit where you want that left arm to go. Could be up, could be behind you. You could bind here. So I'm going to bind if you want to join me there. Great. No need if that's not what you want. You can't actually see that bind very well, but anyway, never mind. Onto all fours and other side. We inhale and raise the left arm and hold up there as we keep breathing. You might guide the breath, then focus on long breaths, slow breaths, rather than thinking deep. And then on an exhale, left arm goes to the right side. Right arm might go behind you, but hand can stay on the ground as well if that's more helpful. And then here again, we're binding. Now you can see the other side of that bind, where your right arm is behind you and then reaches between your legs, as does the left arm. I'm not actually sure I'm binding on this side, if I'm being honest. No, I don't think I was. Anyway, back onto all fours and hands a little bit further forward so you can drop down. The easier way to do this is to bring the elbows to the ground first, so that the forearms are supporting you, and then you can decide to bring your hands onto your shoulder blades. You could also have your forehead on the ground. So I would suggest just bringing the chin to the ground if you feel your chest is comfortable on the ground. Otherwise it's maybe a little bit much for your neck. And hips over the knees. Not an exact science. My hips are a little bit further towards the back in this one, but just a rough thing, so that we're really going into the whole of the back here, especially that mid back, and we slowly come into child's pose and onto all fours from here. We inhale and raise the right leg. Exhale, bring the knee to the dropped head. Inhale, arch, foot to head. Exhale, knee to the dropped head. Breathing in, we arch. Breathing out, we round. And so on. But remember, not my rhythm, but yours, your breath's rhythm. And then from here, tuck your left toes under, raise the knee off the ground, and arch and round. Of course, if that's a bit much for you, just keep it on the ground. But if you do have it off the ground, don't let it rise and lower. Unless you do what I do now. Knee to the dropped head. We inhale and that leg straightens all the way. Exhale, knee to the dropped head. And a few more like that. So if that straightens, that right leg is bent. And then come forwards, hold, step that right foot in between your hands and raise your right arm. And the right hand comes down, we step to the back and into a plank. And from all fours, we'll start the other side. So left leg goes up and knee to the dropped head. Inhaling as you arch, exhaling as you round. And then you can decide to go further, raising the right knee off the ground as you do these Vyagrasana variations. On the next inhale, or the one after that, how well I know this, that right leg straightens and then knee to the dropped head. And again, make sure you adapt. Sometimes we just don't feel like doing something, and obviously I don't have you in the room with me, so just make sure this works for you today. There's nothing wrong with adapting. In fact, I like it. Now step the left foot in between your hands and raise your left arm. And then the hand comes down and we step into a plank. This plank will hold for a little bit longer. Because I can't see you, just a little reminder, we don't want the hips too high, but obviously we don't want to drop them. Now drop your knees, drop your chest and chin, elbows in, roll the shoulders to the back, raise the elbows and press them towards each other. And then from here, raise your toes if you want. If you're not ready for that, that's of course fine. And then lengthen the legs, drop your hips, raise the chest, look up. If you're lower than me, you might not have to, you shouldn't look up, maybe just to the front. So neck comfortable, everything comfortable here. Look to the right side if comfortable, and then keep the elbows in. So just making sure that you don't lose that alignment here. Elbows in, shoulders down, and then look to the left side. Could be all the way to the back. Again, never straining, and then tuck your toes under, push your hips to the back, right hand onto the left hand, just giving you a little bit more release in the back if you need it, and then hands to the right, left hand on top of the right. And back, we roll up, rounding the back, and from all fours, inhale, left arm to the front, right leg to the back, and as you exhale, grab hold. And look to your left shoulder, bend your right arm. So you want the elbow to go towards your rib cage rather than out to the side, so that you're using the tricep rather than the bicep. And it really just has to be a tiny bend. We release and round and move into the hips, and then inhale, left leg away from you, and exhale, bind. Looking to the right side, to the right shoulder, maybe all the way to the back. Maybe bending that left arm. So there's always the option of doing something different. I would say try on the other side what you tried on the first side, but you know, sides are different, you are different. Just see what's better for you, and then tuck your toes under, push your hips up, walk your heels gently into the mat one by one. Press your shoulders to the back and lift them. And then drop the knees and straighten the legs. Drop the knees, so not all the way onto the ground, and straighten the legs again. Pushing knees down and coming back up. A few more like that. And then drop your hips. You bend your legs, hips go almost to the ground. Arm goes up and over, and we straighten into a full side plank. Back, drop your hips to the right side, raise your left arm, send your arm to the front to straighten the legs. And release onto all fours and into Ashtanga Namaskar. Breathe into your Cobra and breathe out into Downward Dog or Mountain. Inhale, right leg toes up and move into your ankle. Yeah, I don't think we did that at the beginning, so there we go. Flex your foot, drop your heel, knee is high, and then we bring the right foot to the front, left heel to the ground, and breathe in, coming into Warrior One or Virabhadrasana. Gracious hero. Veer the hero, you probably know that from Virasana, where we're sitting on the heels. Actually, Virasana is where we're sitting next to the heels, so in between the heels. Sorry, here's my explanation. Interlocking the hands behind you, come forwards and down into a pyramid. Sorry about that, I hope you looked. And then left hand down, raise your right arm into Parivrit Trikonasana. Hands down, drop your left knee, one of my real favorite postures, Anjani Asana. I also just love the story of Anjani and Hanuman and his whole life. I think that's why everyone really likes, why he's such a much beloved god, because we can learn so much from him. We step back, we raise our left leg, and remember a little bit of movement into the ankle, and then flex your foot, drop the heel, knee stays high, hip pushes up, and we breathe in. And as we exhale, we step that left foot to the front, right heel to the ground, and inhale into Virabhadrasana. And trying to give that little push to the front with the right hip, to the back with the left hip. Interlock the hands, squeeze your shoulder blades, straighten your left leg as you come down. And apologies again if you missed that on the other side because I didn't give you that cue. I'm still getting used to this. And release, right hand down, left arm up. Take care to keep that back foot on the ground. So you want the heel in touch with the ground. You want to feel every part of the foot in touch with the ground. You can always step the foot further forwards. Just because mine are quite far apart doesn't mean they have to be. And then from here down into that low lunge, Anjani Asana. The little Hanuman, Anjani because it means son of Anjana, the water nymph that was desperately seeking a child, and then Vayu, the wind god, took mercy on her, or was admiring her for being so, praying all the time for that child. We're stepping back and raising the right leg again. Breathe in as you do that, breathe out as you flex and drop that heel again. And then from here, if you want, grab hold of that right heel, press the heel further down towards the buttocks. But if you feel that that strains the neck, or obviously if you feel that you're not balanced enough for that, that's completely fine. Helps a bit to slide that left foot out. So the heel could be on the ground, for example. That's what I'm doing just now, as you can see. And then right hand down, right foot to the front, left heel to the ground. We breathe in, coming into Warrior One again, just as before. And this time will stay for a little bit longer. So this is my aim for today's class, just doing the same and yet not. So we'll just have a little bit more time to explore. And you might close the eyes here, if that feels like something you can do. As always, the slowness comes with a lot more awareness in many ways. We're not rushing, we're feeling the breath. We can feel subtle differences as well from one moment to the next. Like how deep we might feel that stretch into the left leg, or the warmth, the strength in the right leg. Now we're still actively pushing that left hip gently to the back. Good. Lower the hands again, interlock the hands, and straightening the right leg, slowly come forwards and down. Arms go as far to the front as they can, or hands. But of course, if you need to hold onto the ground here in Parsvottanasana, that's completely fine. just somewhere to hold and give you the option to feel the breath and to feel any other subtle changes that happen from one moment to the next. So that's literally how we can keep ourselves from being unaware of what's going on in the body, keep ourselves from getting, well, certain things that accumulate over time. Of course, there's accidents we have no control over, but things don't just suddenly appear. And that's the power of interoception, of being aware of what's going on in you, being able to say at a more timely moment, okay, this isn't good for me, I'm stopping this now. My knee is maybe not hurting yet, but there's something going on that may not be good if I don't stop doing this or that. So that's our aim. Release, and left hand comes to the ground. We raise the right arm. The chin might go up, but it really doesn't have to. It needs to be working within how deep you're twisting, within what the neck is capable of, what's comfortable here. And we don't need to overstretch. Breathing, or rather being aware of the breath. We can't help but guide it a little bit. That's the funny thing. And then right hand comes down, we bend the right leg and drop the left knee to the ground. Back into Anjaneyasana, sinking as low as we can here. Making sure that, of course, we're holding us in place, right? But this is more an exercise in flexibility than it is in strength. That's why we want to make sure the hips drop quite low and to the front, rather than us keeping ourselves here and maybe basically keeping that left leg from working hard. It stretches, it's not holding you. And then, of course, closing the eyes is always an option. But it's also not for everyone, not just with conditions you may have that might prevent you from it, but also sometimes, as much as I think it can help you hone that sense of interoception and equilibrioception of balance, release and step into Parvadasana. Inhale, raise your left leg. Exhale, flex the foot, drop the heel. Take your time raising the left arm if you want to for that bind. And keep the right arm really, really strong. You're not letting yourself come forward, basically. The hand and elbow are not in one line. The elbow is far away from the hand. And left hand down, left foot to the front. Right heel down, arms and torso up into Virabhadrasana. That was a terrible accent there. No judgment. Again, you might give that closing of the eyes a try. Yes, and what I was going to say, I spoke to one of my students, and he said that he feels when he closes the eyes, he escapes. He's not present. So that's something that everyone needs to decide for themselves. Yes, that's a great thing to do for your balance, but it may also not be the right thing for you. In my opinion, though, more often than not it is. Just saying, give it a try. Float the arms down, squeeze your shoulder blades interlocking the hands and let yourself come forwards. Left leg long, spine long as well. So really don't try to just drop and round your back towards that left leg. Keep yourself long. It might be nice to focus on the breath in the back as well as the front. isn't it interesting when we become aware of something, it's almost harder to then not be aware of it anymore after a while. I had that interesting experience when I was doing an EEG, and they asked me to count my heartbeats without sort of touching the chest or anything. And it became very easy. First I thought, okay, I can't feel it. Then I did, and it just kept being there after that. Right hand down, left arm up into that revolved triangle, making sure the back foot stays on the ground, and not just the toes, the whole of the foot. And what sometimes happens there at the back as well is that we kind of lean inwards a little bit more, so towards the inner edge. So keep that outer edge of the foot active as well. Press it down into the mat. Just to prevent yourself from, leaning inwards a little bit. And that will be a slightly deeper stretch here as well for the back of the leg. Also make sure the neck is comfortable. Don't worry if you need to change position in any way. That is the number one rule in long holds. Sometimes we come into something that's too deep for us or ends up being too deep for us. We release into Anjaneyasana, taking our time, raising the arms, so just making sure that that right knee, for example, is comfortable as well. You can always double up the mat as well. And then really allow your hips to sink and get heavy. Again, it'll be easier in some postures to close the eyes than in others. That's very different for everyone. I have this remarkable student in her 70s who can just stand in Vrikshasana or the tree pose for a long time. It's really quite humbling. And the idea is not to I say that a lot. It's not to master it, to perfect it. Yes, that's great. It shows that we're calming the mind essentially. Release and step back into Parvadasana. But what it really is that the consistency of it is the nice thing, because ultimately, whether we're super excited or we're super aggravated, it's the same thing. It means stimulation of our sympathetic nervous system. And if we're within that parasympathetic one, that's where we're calm, that's where we can balance better. And that's something that's what we should all strive for, essentially, that contentment, not the happy excitement, but the contentment. As you're staying in Parvadasana, obviously make sure that you're not suddenly sinking into the posture. If you're so you can see I'm working with so I've got a yoga towel or whatever you would call it, that's on top of my mat. And that is much more slippery than a mat. A mat is essentially designed to help you not slip, right? So here you're working much harder if you have a towel. Roll forwards into a plank. Hold that plank with the eyes closed if you like. Making sure that the moment you feel that your hips are dropping and you're arching the back or something, that you drop your knees instead. You do not have to stay in that full plank. So if you want to work harder, that is obviously that next step. I mean, I did not have a yoga mat in my life until I was in my 30s, and Mira and I started our company, Pathak Yoga, which was around about 10 years ago, 2014, 2015, something like that. And we bought mats for our corporate clients. And until then, I was working with a very thin sort of bed sheet of the 70s. And boy, does that make you work hard. Because there you need to focus every part of your body on balancing. Eyes open probably, I would say, as you raise your right arm and roll onto the left side here into a side plank. And you want to try and get that right hand to the ground, not changing the position of the hips or anything. So really imagining leaning against a wall, but then rather than reaching for the front, reaching down. And your feet can also be on top of each other. I would suggest both feet on the ground so that you're stretching a little bit more deeply into the side. So if you're raising the foot, obviously that takes away from that side stretch a little bit. Nothing wrong with that if you don't need the side stretch. Again, it's up to us to go somewhere that feels good for us. slowly come back into our plank, and then immediately on an inhale, I would say, open up to the other side. So left arm up and over to the front, and then trying to get that round shape going, as if you wanted the fingertips to touch the ground. Feet on top of each other or in front of each other, and breathe. I think I may have my eyes closed here. Feel free to do the same. And we come down and sit on our heels. We shake off the hands, and then a little bit of movement into the wrists, hands and fists, thumbs inside, just drawing circles in both directions. And then spread your fingers wide, flex the hands and go up and down. And you want to try and keep your hands straight, so ideally not bending at the knuckles. And then shake it off and come into child's pose. Take care to drop the shoulders, let them get heavy. And have your forearms on the ground so that you can really relax the shoulders as well. And then roll up through your spine. Breathe in and raise the arms. Here, that's of course Vajrasana rather than Virasana, as I mistakenly said earlier. So sitting on the heels, Vajrasana, between the heels, Virasana. On an exhale, come forwards and down, fingertips on the ground, drop the head. Arms long and aware. Come to the front, and maybe sort of a mixture between Chaturanga Dandasana and Ashtanga Namaskar. But if you want to go for it, a full Chaturanga is fine as well. Knee, chest, chin on the ground is fine as well. Inhale into Cobra or Bhujangasana. I should say King of Cobras. And then up into your Mountain or Downward Dog. Raise your right leg, flex the foot, drop the heel. Now straighten but keep your foot flexed. Press your right hip down. Step your right foot to the front, left heel to the ground. We come back. Actually, no, we aren't. I should have known that, shouldn't I? Having come up with this. Into reverse warrior now, not another warrior one. And remember, you don't want to arch your back here. You want the hips fairly open, but make sure you're comfortable. Just feel a stretch into your right side here as that right arm reaches up. And then right arm comes down onto the right leg. Left arm goes to the front. Extended side angle, Uti Parsukonasana. And as we did at the beginning, the palm opens to the ceiling to give us more of a feeling for opening up the arm, the shoulder, the chest. And up into Warrior 2, and from here immediately into Trikonasana. So straightening the right leg and deciding where you want that top arm to be. Could reach up in line with the bottom arm. Of course, your hand could hover here as well. And if that arm goes to the front, it could be in the same position as from before in Utthita Barsukkonasana. Left hand down, we sink into a twisted version of that low lunge, and we may also grab hold of the left foot with the right hand. Check on your left hand. Always check on those parts of the body that are important in the posture but you're not initially thinking of. And check on those parts that have nothing to do with the posture, presumably, because every part should have to do with it. Release and slowly drop your forearms to the ground if you're low enough. Otherwise, just let your chest come a little bit lower. If you can, the head can come to the ground. Of course, it's fine to have your hands on the ground here. You might walk them further forwards to give yourself a little bit more of a stretch, or to Just bend the arms is another option, but maybe one that is a little bit more active, and you might not want that. Good. We slowly come up, and then from here tuck your left toes under and step into Asana. Inhale, left leg goes up. Exhale, flex your foot, drop the heel. Inhale, we keep that flexion but press the left hip down, and then from here step the left foot to the front, right heel to the ground, up and over into reverse warrior. And reverse warrior and humble warrior, the one where we're coming forwards, aren't actually part of that traditional one. The story is that of Shiva arriving, so that's warrior one, or his avatar, a warrior that he's created with his, we're coming into Utthita Barsvakonas, and here our extended side angle. Just another variation would be hand on the ground. You could also bind here. So Shiva taking revenge, cutting off a lock of his hair, his dreadlocks, to create Virbhadra or Virabhadra, and sending him down to earth, to the yagni that his from here into Trikonas, and a different variation, so not coming up first, but feel free to do that as well. Different options for different bodies. So warrior 1, 2 and 3 are these sort of traditional ones that are part of this story of Shiva essentially killing but then reawakening to life again his father-in-law. Coming down and into Anjaneyasana, and from here twisting and maybe grabbing hold of the back foot. And you can see that my left knee is going out, and I'm actually on the lateral edge of the foot. That is, of course, possible if that feels good. What we want to try and stay aware of is the fact that the left hip is higher than the right. So that's the one we want to gently push down. And we release, coming a little bit further down towards the ground. You can always walk that left foot further out if it's in the way, if you feel like you want to go deeper. And then from here, hands to the ground, tuck your right toes under, and from here, knee off the ground, step into mountain, downward dog, that pose of Shiva, which shows that he's even the Lord of dogs. Raise your right leg and knee to the dropped head. Hold for a little bit longer. And then step that foot between the hands, left heel to the ground. We come up and over into reverse warrior. Incidentally, back bends do this, but reverse warrior has that potential as well. If we go quite far back, especially if you're quite deep in this posture, check on your breath. We should always check on the breath, but really make sure you're there with the breath. Realize if it's shallow or if you've stopped breathing at all, and take yourself a little bit less deep if that's the case. And then left arm down. That's the right arm even. Left arm behind you. So this time I'm showing the bind. Of course, you don't have to. You can come into that exact same Utthita Barsvakonas. But if you want to just deepen a little bit, if possible, with the shoulders still on top of each other, so that exact same alignment that you had before. Go for that bound, extended side angle. Check on your neck. Feel your breath. And release the hands to the ground. Again, dropping the left knee, pushing the right knee out, grabbing hold of the left foot. Just a second round, longer hold or deeper hold, or both, I should say. But again, just that option to deepen. Just staying longer and doing it for the second time is quite enough. And then let's slowly release and move out of this twist, bringing the right hand back, left leg back, and slowly lower into what is also known as the lizard or Uttan Prishth Asana. So lizard, again, the English translation. And when you're really, really deep in this, I have seen it with an Indian guru who's probably done nothing else than asanas all his life, where the chest, the whole of the torso was basically on the ground. But again, we're not looking for that. We're looking to work with our body. Everything that we do with the body is really just preparing us for more, for outgrowing the body, for grounding ourselves, for sitting still, for going into the things that are actually so much harder, and that's not the physical practice. And we tuck the toes under, step to the back, and raise the left leg. Strong shoulders, knee to the dropped head. Stay. And release the foot. Right heel to the ground, up and over into Parivrit Virabhadrasana. Also, if it gets too much and you feel yourself struggling to breathe freely, that right hand can always rest on the right leg so that you're relying a little bit more on that. So just anything that you can do to make it possible for your breath to be happy. Because if the breath isn't, then we shouldn't really be in that posture. So the aim in vinyasa and flowy asanas, coming into Uttan Prishth Asana, Utthita Parsvakonasana, extended side angle. The deeper you go here, the more that hand can rise, the left hand can slide up that arm. So when we're flowing through postures, of course our breath will change, and that is part of it. We're using the breath and the movement to change from that respiration our heart rate, our blood pressure, the electric activity in the body. Here it's the opposite. We're trying to keep it all at that same level, even though we're using the body. So that's why we're observing the breath, so that we're aware when something changes and what that means for the body. Coming into Anjaneyasana, and from here back into that twist, grabbing hold of the back foot, pressing the front knee out. Keep breathing. And release into Uttan Prishth Asana. Now I mean it. And relax a little bit here. So you want to try to give yourself the chance to just fold forwards, let the head get heavy, let the shoulders get heavy. So even if your hands are on the ground, try to just relax a little bit here to soften into the posture. You might close the eyes. And connect with the breath. Let it not just be, but be aware of it. And then slowly, hands to the ground, tuck the toes under, the semi-step to the front, and we come into Malasana. Grab hold of your big toes and roll onto the back, taking yourself into Anand Balasana. Blissful child, happy baby. Making sure that where you are is comfortable for neck and shoulders. While, if we can, we'll try to sort of ground the lower back and let the tailbone get heavy. If that doesn't quite work for the neck and shoulders, they definitely take center stage here. And then we may raise the buttocks a little bit. And then hug your knees in. Just pull them in towards the chest. And then I was looking forward to that one. We're coming into an extended, well, something that we sometimes rush through, and that's Sarvangasana, or that sequence. We'll start in Ardhalasan's half plow, legs going up. Hands can be on the chest and stomach for a little while, just to make sure you stay aware of breath and heartbeat. And then from here, send your legs a little bit further forwards, just a high diagonal. Maybe 60 degrees. If that feels too much, please don't worry. Going down to 45 degrees. Arms next to the head, so you know you're not using the shoulders, you're relaxing them. And then if you can, hover the legs over the ground. This may be too much. You can bend the legs a little bit. You can bring the feet higher. You could also squeeze your glutes here, or not, and see what difference that makes. But do keep your lower back on the ground. And then raise the legs to 45 degrees again. Stay there, again deciding if that still works for you. What's your breath up to? We were observing it so that we wouldn't forget to keep observing. And then back up to, could be 60, could be whatever else, but just a little bit less than 90 degrees, so sort of a high diagonal. And back to 90 degrees. Now the thing that everyone really loves. Raise the toes so that your buttocks come off the ground. Just ever so slightly, and the toes stay above the hips. They don't go further towards the head, towards the back of the room, or the back of you. You bring your hands to your buttocks and rise, but not into Sarvangasana, just a bit higher, and feet stay above the hips. This is quite deep for the core, really deep. Keep your neck fairly relaxed here. Yes, there's going to be a bit of a strain there. Try to keep it soft, and then come all the way into Sarvangasana. So you're just walking the hands up the back, and the hands can stay there for as long as you need them there. And if and when you don't need them, the first step would be to bring them onto the ground behind the back and maybe interlock them. Then next to the head, then up towards the ceiling. So here I'm showing, but again, you may need more time. You may already be in that completely unsupported shoulder stand. That's all fine, but give yourself as much time as you need. There's no need to rush at all. Things happen when they happen, and it's only we that are impatient because we just have no patience with ourselves. With others, yes, mostly, not with ourselves. And that's common as well. It's just completely normal because we spend every day of our life in our own situation. So we lose that sense of time a little bit. And things seem quite long to us when actually they aren't. Also remember, if your hips are not over your shoulders or a little bit further back, that's also fine. This is just an aim. Yeah, and just to show you don't have to reach the arms up. Your hands could still be at the back. That's also the shoulder stand. Sarvanga, all of your limbs. The mother of all asanas is what Iyengar called it. So it's in many ways it's like Surya Namaskar. It's something so central to yoga and something so central to the body. We drop the feet to the ground nice and slowly. Heels come down as well. Hips stay high. We might keep the hands under us and straighten the legs. This is Setu Bandhasan just as much as having the legs bent. You could also interlock the hands underneath you. I'm not sure I'm showing that. I forgot. Sorry. But you'll see, and we'll all see whether I'll show it or not. Maybe I am not. So hands can stay there. If I'm not showing it, hands can interlock. Obviously, then you'll keep the hips up with that strength of your body. And if you feel like coming into what's often called Chakrasana, but that that full Setu Bandhasan with your hands on the ground, so I wasn't showing it, then that's an option as well. But for now, come down, hands under the buttocks, drop the head so that the crown of the head comes onto the ground or hovers. And we may, this is just another option and not for everyone. So Padmasana is one of those things that might not be quite comfortable for our ankles, even if it is possible. But if you want to come into that lotus pose, then you could bring your hands to the feet. And please don't worry if you want to adapt here. Forearms to the ground, head just dropped but not on the ground, legs bent, legs straight, whatever works. Remember, Matsya means the fish, and fish come in all shapes and sizes, as do we. But this Matsyasana is not just any fish. It's an avatar of Vishnu, who saved the Vedas from the flood. So that's one of the many stories associated with Matsya. So a deity, an avatar of a grand deity, as many of the asanas, of course, you know. Two of the main ones I may have said, of course, upward dog, downward dog being Shivji, and child's pose as well. That baby that signifies to sage Kartikeya, who's witnessing the end of the world, but takes solace in the fact that he sees this baby on a banyan leaf. And realizes this is the beginning of something rather than just the end. Right, we're coming slowly out of this posture. Take your time. Allow yourself to change what you're doing with the legs here if you need to. And just fold forwards. Time also always for the neck to come up, and support is always a good idea. That tip comes a bit late, I realize. And slowly from here, I think I'm just coming a little bit further forwards. I don't know what I was doing here. Yes, sorry, that was the idea. So drop the head to the ground, interlock the hands behind you. Now you can obviously do that with your legs long or with the soles of the feet together. Just as you're folding forwards, you're giving yourself that additional incentive to straighten the spine a bit more and squeeze into the shoulder blades while staying low. And slowly come up, release. And if, like me, you were still in that Padmasana position, then you might feel like giving your your ankles even a little bit of movement. But come onto your back and then bring your right knee on top of the left and drop the knees to the left, turn the head to the right. And as always, if that's not quite right for you, if you prefer a different version of Markadasana, of the monkey pose, then find your own. But we're holding this for a little bit longer, not too long, but maybe a little heads up so that you know not to go too deep. Don't push yourself too much. You might be more aware of the breath in the right side now. That movement in the right side. slowly come back and hug your knees in. If more is needed, you can always raise the head towards the knees. And then from here, left knee on top of the right, or in some other way, bringing the left knee over to the right side for the other side of Markatasana. Turn the head to the left if that seems to be a nice thing for the neck. And close the eyes if you haven't already. With all the reminders I give you probably don't need another. But yeah, just allow yourself to soften into this posture. We're holding it. We're allowing ourselves that stillness and that slowness. And the breath slows down if it was in any way faster. That's what just holding does, depending on where. But here we're on the ground. We're not pushing ourselves too hard, I hope. And just breathing a few long breaths. Guide them if you want. Observe them if you want. And come onto the back again. Hug the knees in. Again, option to raise the head. Just lie here. Maybe feeling the breath against your thighs, or the movement of the stomach. And then stretch out. Legs apart. Toes probably automatically turning out a little bit. And we open the palms to the ceiling. The classic Shavasana, shove the corpse. Allowing ourselves that feeling of being like a corpse. Maybe being aware of that temporary nature of everything. Being very philosophical today. But it is that, isn't it? I mean, that knowledge, that awareness of the fact that we are going to outgrow this body, but that something of us always stays. That's something that any science can tell us as well. Not something that just religion or philosophy is grappling with and trying to find answers to. So while you're here with that still body, you can notice all the things that are alive inside of you. All the space in you. All the energy that is filling the space. We're made up of atoms, and atoms are mostly that energy. Actually, so our inanimate objects around us, they also hold energy, so nothing really goes. We just like to think of everything as being very much tangible. We're here, we're constantly changing. Most of these things we're not aware of at all. That's why we hold on and we suddenly notice things that are so glaringly obvious. You might start deepening the breath if you want, in a comfortable, natural way, not going against your natural rhythm. It's maybe allowing for a little bit more guidance, just gentle manipulation of the breath. Maybe becoming more aware of the pauses and expanding on them a little bit. That antar kumbhak, that bahe kumbhak, that retention after the inhale, retention after the exhale. Becoming aware of all the parts of the body that are touching the ground. And letting any last tension that you might feel go into the mat, into the ground, into the earth, with that heaviness that you feel in the body. expanding on your in and exhalations. Slowly moving into the fingers, wrists, feet, legs, arms, neck, and feet to the ground, knees maybe going from side to side. I always think that's nice. Maybe you do as well. And eyes open or closed as we come onto the right side and up to seated. Rounding a little bit, stretching a little bit. No particular way to stretch, that's completely up to you. And when you're ready, rub your hands together and place the palms over your face. We are done. Thank you for joining. When you're ready, open the eyes and bring the hands to the heart center.